Okay, hello everyone. We have two people here. We're competing with some slashers over there. So I am Mike, the director of the Folsom Village Robotics Company. And we have Giselle, our lead robot trainer. And we have Hunter, our lead roboticist. And that is our travel team. Oh, well, we forgot about Spud. That's why we're here. Spud is just a real robot doing real stuff in the real world. One of the things we noticed is that you see very few robots doing anything in the real world. You see them on TV, you see them in the factory, and our goal was to put him into the real world. So he is an autonomous general purpose android. Our goal is autonomy. We do not really find telepresence robots that interesting. He can be a telepresence robot, but there's nothing really complicated about that. He's using the latest low-cost technology and techniques. That is why he came into existence, is because of things like the Raspberry Pi and the Jetson Nano and LiDAR that is now $150 instead of $5,000. So these technologies have made him possible. He's using brushless DC hub motors, which are very similar to what is used in a hovercraft, the hoverboards. That technology has been traveled over to a lot of robots. He has a Luxonis camera, and that is what she is using to send her hand signals to. It's an amazing device that built right into it has the artificial intelligence to read her fingers, so it does not take any processing power from our main computer. That little piece of technology is also $150. That would have cost thousands only a few years ago. We have a Jetson Nano, and some people know what that might be. It's a very high-speed processor for machine learning. NVIDIA, the graphics company, makes those. And we have multiple cameras on the robot. I don't think we can ever have enough. As it turns out, to be able to see things on a table, we may put them on the arms and things like that. Okay. So Spud is made out of a lot of 3D printed parts. He has an aluminum frame inside because when we mount the arms for manipulating things, we are going to need the strength. So he has a very strong core. It's kind of funny the way the shirt came about. When we put together the aluminum core, I had him sitting in my house and it looked horrible. So my younger son was there, so I took one of his shirts and put on him. And then we decided that was the look, because now you can dress him any way you like. You can put him in your uniform, you can go buy clothes. And so it was kind of a happy accident. And here we have a shot of Spud undergoing major surgery. And inside you're going to see the Raspberry Pi. There we go. And the Jetson Nano is right behind the eyes. So all of the technology is connected with Ethernet. And that makes it very flexible. So we can move any program to any processor. We can add 10 processors and they all just communicate with Ethernet. So we'll go to the next. So what can he do? Well, right now some of the things we've played with is serving refreshments. Where this might be handy is if you have an art gallery and you have a wine server, well, you kind of want something fancy, so Spud can be your wine server rather than just having a typical boring human. We all had seen plenty of those. He can be a tour guide. We thought that would be pretty neat because we put the monitor on the back, and as he leads you through, he can talk about the different things that you're seeing, pictures and stories and history. Security patrol actually turns out to be one of the simplest tasks, basically putting the robot on a path, putting fire detection on it, any kind of thing that is anomalous that shouldn't be there, he can report, he can record. So there is actually some security robots around town, so we actually have some competition. It looks like R2-D2 is by Night Security. So we are going to have Spud go and confront their little security robot and see how that works out. He actually runs around downtown. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He can be a door guide. So what that means is a large building like this, he could greet you at the door and actually lead you to booth B9 instead of the volunteer that had to walk us back yesterday. Safety patrol is similar to security patrol, but in the oil field industry, which there's a lot of around here, we have a lot of poisonous gases, and sometimes they come in the next morning and they've collected. Spud could be running all night with a gas detector looking for flames, and as happens a lot, people collapse from fumes, and he could detect fallen people and send back a rescue message. Okay, the things he's going to do soon, we hope, is floor cleaner, which obviously is iRobot, right? But Spud could also clean your countertop. The iRobot's not so good at that. So I have a little dust in my house. I'm a bachelor, and you might think that's not that important, but apparently it's important enough to support $1 billion industry of cleaners and wipes. So I want to program Spud to wipe down my countertops. Table cleaner without trash. That is just crumbs. That is fairly simple. We see a lot of restaurants with dirty tables, and a robot keeping them clean would make the customer experience a lot better. And porter, which is basically just carrying your stuff at the park. So one of the issues is when I go to the park and I have my computer or things like that, and I want to go into the restroom, I can't leave the computer. You can actually put it in a secure package on Spud, and he'll watch it. The guy who's going to pick up Spud and run away is not that often, so he's a fairly secure dude. He's going to weigh over 100 pounds. So he's a good place to carry your water, to carry your mace. He can squirt mace. We're a little leery about that yet. Okay, so the next task is actually cleaning a table with trash on it. This is actually a very difficult task because you have to pick up the things in a certain order. If a glass is on a napkin, you can't pick the napkin up. This is called random picking, and it is a very difficult computer problem. And we think we can solve it because we're kind of crazy like that. Restaurant order taker is pretty obvious. He probably would come up with the tablet and let you order. Restaurant waiter, fairly common as well. He could deliver the food. There are some robots out there that they're working on with trays that can deliver the food to the tables. But once again, they're very custom robots with one purpose. We want to have a little bit more general purpose. So our little robot, at the end of the day, after greeting, after doing the restaurant, after doing the waiter, becomes your security robot for your restaurant. So he serves double purpose. And security is very interesting because people don't respect alarms. They still break in. They know the cops won't be there for 30 minutes. But if you've got a robot roaming around, shining a light everywhere, it's very unlikely that the typical burglar is going to break into your facility. Okay, so, okay, lead robot trainer. What is he doing? He's just spinning around. Okay, good, great, okay. So our design challenge is ahead. A useful robotic arm can cost $5,000 or more. Everything below that tends to be toys. So $5,000 will lift about 5 pounds. It's horrible. If you want to lift 50 pounds, you're going to pay $50,000. And it sounds crazy, but this is true if you start looking at the price of the arms. The arm alone is 10 times more complex than everything we've done. Arms are very difficult. So we are working on our own design that we're trying to get below $2,000. We think we could do this because we have a lot of experience in the oil field with mechanics and things like that. Voice recognition is already possible. The phones are amazing. But putting that technology in a robot right now, that's where we're working. The problem is that when you are in an area that is noisy, it is very hard to pick up that voice. That's why we have the hand technology. And the hand technology is actually useful on factory floor as well, where it's very noisy. So facial recognition and self-learning, that is the Jetson Nano's job. What we're talking about self-learning is we would like him to photograph every person he sees through the day, store that image, then that night train himself on those images and just give them a number. He may not know their names at that time. It'd be just like a child recognizing somebody he sees. Then later you tell them that that person's name is Joe. So he goes back and he tags Joe. He's already learned Joe. He just said by a name. Now he'll have a name with it. This is a kind of an interesting concept. It's been done, but with the robot you have a new paradigm because he's actually maneuvering in crowds and doing this himself. And abstract artificial intelligence using deep learning. This is a big controversy in the AI field, is abstract versus non-abstract. Abstract is basically deciding that that's a car, that's a person, and that's a person, and then he does all of his thinking based on that, not the image of the person, just the fact that it is a person. It sounds intuitive, but a lot of people don't think it's possible. We think it's the only way to go, because we think that's how we think. Okay? And so, part of the reason we started this robot is we were in the robot club at TXRX here in town, and we started asking, has anybody seen a robot? And not one single person had ever seen a real-life maneuvering robot, except maybe at Disneyland. And this is shocking. We're in the 4th largest city in the United States, 8 million people in the metropolitan area. Nobody had seen an autonomous robot. So that gets you to thinking. Everybody thinks they've seen one because they're in the movies, they're ubiquitous, they're in the news, but they really haven't. So Spud is the first Android encounter for a lot of people. And we've taken him to restaurants, and people line up and they want to take pictures with him. It's kind of a shock. What's really funny is a lot of people will pretend to ignore him. They will pretend he doesn't exist. And then later, as they file out, they'll kind of come over and start talking about him. But it's really strange, their reaction. So everywhere Spud goes, he gets quite a crowd. So this crowd here, he got front and center in the picture. And his personality is just out of this world, of course. So the game that we're going to be playing over the next year is, will we get kicked out? And the question is, will we get kicked out of the coffee shop? When you start bringing something like this in and parking him at the table, eyebrows sometimes get a bit raised. So far, we haven't had too much trouble. We did have a small child who was somewhat terrified of him. It was a 10-year-old boy, and actually would not get near him. So you can see that some people could have an issue. Public events. If he's out walking around in a public event, will they even let him in the door? Probably not in this place. We had to come in through the back door. So doubt they would even let him in. And the carpool lane. I actually tried that. Did not work. Absolutely did not. Still fighting that in court though, so there is a chance. The problem is the last time I went to court, his battery died. So what's he doing now? Oh. Well, one thing we've learned is that robots are a bit strange, and robot trainers are a bit snippy sometimes. Okay, so what will the world think of Spud? How will he be received if I take him into Whole Foods and he travels behind me and I use him to put my food in? Some people aren't going to like that. Some people aren't going to care. At first, they're going to be fine. What happens when there's 50 of them roaming around inside of Whole Foods, following people around? Somebody going to complain? Probably. How will the workers treat Spud? Well, one of the waitresses that we took him to said, he's going to take my job. And I said, well, he cleans restrooms. And she said, he can have that job. So there is a little bit of back and forth on that. Will he take away jobs? Well, we hope so. We hope he takes away the worst ones. One of the problems is in fast food, everybody wants to make the food, everybody wants to serve the food, nobody wants to clean the tables. I was in a restaurant the other day. Every table was covered with crumbs. The floor was, I had to clean my table. And for me, that ruins the experience when I have to clean somebody else's food off. So he would be able to just clean the tables. Coming back from the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of restaurants not wanting to hire back that level. They're saying they can't find them, which is possible. We may see a transition to where that front work is done by robots. The question is when, okay? So everybody asks, when will the robots be around? Well, one problem with robot people is we have no idea. But I believe that within 5 years, you will be seeing at least one robot, you'll be seeing at least one robot every week doing something, somewhere. So that's my prediction. Now, it could be way off or it could be way under. Okay, so we have an intern named Chad, and we asked him to give us the answers to all of the commonly asked questions, and so here they are. And we'll show you the QR code here in a second. There you go, if you want to take a picture of it. You got it? All right, did it show up? Okay, cool. So, do we have any questions from our audience members? All three of you? So can you imagine this robot in your home? To give you an example, one of the things that he might do is when the Amazon delivery guy comes, right, it's very conceivable that he could open the door, recognize the van. You have a camera outside, recognizes the van. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's been cases where somebody has come up and accessed the house pretending to be the Amazon guy. They have some remote that they can open. So he could actually verify that there's an Amazon vehicle parked in the front, let the person in, drop the package, and then close the door behind them. Sometimes there are lock boxes. The key is that you can buy a lock box, and you can buy an iRobot, and you can buy a server robot, but you're paying thousands to do all these different tasks. If you can have a general purpose robot, just like your phone. Look at all the tasks that your phone now does that you did in individual devices before. So the goal is to try to make him able to do multiple things so that his value increases. We think the value to a restaurant, for instance, especially like a tea house or something, 30 to 40% of its value is just because it's cool to have a robot. We'll admit it. But I would bring my friends back if the robot was bringing me teas and things like that. So there's a little bit of cachet there. Obviously, we're going to be looking into serving first. We're actually playing around with that idea. One of the things we're going to do is add a credit card reader to him, and he can actually tell what you've taken out. There's actually technology, just like Amazon does. So we want to turn him loose in a 1,000 office building. Let him go around and ding a bell at every door all day long with candies, Cokes, and drinks, and you can come out and pay for them. Now, where I've worked, when they had the candy box called to us all day. And at least once a day we get an M&M. So think about this. If you make $1 per snack, which is very typical, some places it's $2. You can imagine him going all day long around and using the elevator. Does not do stairs. So going around all day long to every door, all you'd have to do is make $100 per day to pay for himself in 3 months. Now, what's interesting about that is when you typically sell a robot, you have to convince people on the ROI, the return on investment. I'm saving you this person, it's going to repay itself in this amount of time. Well, now I'm telling you, he's going to go get dollars for you. So it's kind of a cool switch in what a robot can do. He's actually, you can take him to the park, he could be a vendor. So I went to the Snackwell machine, which is an automated machine similar to that, and I would buy things just because it was cool. Well, I think people will buy stuff from a robot. We're actually going to take him to Memorial Park and test this theory at some point. We'll test it for free first, and then we'll add the credit card reader. Okay, so that is our Spud. Everybody wants to know what that stands for, and it changes every day. So we don't really have a set purpose, and that's everything we have. If you have any questions?